Is this the end of The Undertaker? Has he officially retired? We will see. Undertaker Last Ride, Chapter 5, Revelation, is the final part in the Last Ride series. And at the end, it seems like The Undertaker is retired, but he kind of left it open at the end, the way they put it. But this documentary starts off with Extreme Rules of July 14th of last year. And this is The Undertaker's tag team match. He teams with Roman Reigns to take on Drew McIntyre and Shane McMahon. And this feels like it was ages ago. I don't even remember this match. It feels like it was so long ago. And if you remember in last episode, and after the match, Undertaker tells Vince McMahon he's done. It's a bit of a contrast from last episode, because I remember Undertaker was telling Vince McMahon it's not there. It was almost like he was disappointed in the match. But here, it's changed. He's saying he's satisfied and this is it. So after the match in Philly at Extreme Rules, he seems happy because it went off well. And he got redemption from the Goldberg match in Saudi Arabia. He had numerous conversations with Triple H telling him that he's done. Next, we go to 2 months later in New York City. He's at Madison Square Garden. And I did not know this, that they basically shot 2 farewells to Madison Square Garden. Because I think in part 2, if I'm not mistaken, he does a farewell to MSG and he has his final match there. So he had his final match, but he also had a final farewell. And this is when he appeared on, I think it was SmackDown. Pretty sure he appeared late last year. Kind of cool to see him in MSG, and he shows a picture of Elvis and Muhammad Ali, and I guess those were 2 of his heroes. He praises them as he walks past the Garden backstage. After he thanks the crowd in MSG, he goes to the locker room and he says that he's okay if he doesn't wrestle again. And then he later talks about his father. And I did not know much about... He doesn't really talk about his family too much, but we hear him and his father. He brought him backstage one time and his father gave him shit because he had to do the eyeliner. And he would... his father actually passed away. I don't know when, but I thought that was actually a really good moment. I thought he came off really likable. Mark did here. So he talks about Saudi in the match with Goldberg too, and something really catastrophic could have happened. He's saying he could have been, he had his neck broken really close. I'm not sure, but seeing that spot again was rough. Next, we go to Los Angeles, and this is the Broken Skull Sessions, the first episode in November of 2019. Of the first guest of the Broken Skull Sessions was The Undertaker, Mark Calloway. And this is the first time we really saw Undertaker open up. And it's really awesome, too, because Austin's doing an interview of Stone Cold and The Undertaker talking for an hour. It was a great one. That was actually the most views I've ever had on a YouTube video, was that. I think I got, it was in the high thousands, but I got a lot of dislikes because people thought it was the actual interview because it was so long, but it was just my review of the interview. So the podcast with Austin led to the AJ match. AJ, I think he saw it, and he called The Undertaker not too long after that. He basically asked him for the match at WrestleMania. We saw Edge, who's in this documentary. He says, if I want my last match, it's going to be with AJ Styles. And that could happen. Maybe he does retire against AJ, but Undertaker looks like his last match was with AJ in that Boneyard match. Some of Taker's best matches have been with guys a lot smaller than him, like Shawn Michaels. And he generally works really good with guys who are fast in the ring, and he's a fast guy for his size. I always thought those were some of his better matches. Were not at Shawn Michaels, obviously, but he can work well in that kind of style. And AJ would have been a really good fit for him. But what I was thinking when they were doing that match was, 10 years ago, it's a 5-star match. Now, it's going to be rough. And I think the Boneyard match was way better than the actual singles match could have ever been. So I guess Undertaker and AJ know each other. They know that they have mutual friends, and they know each other really well. And the match worked out perfectly. I thought it was probably the best match. At this stage, I don't think Undertaker going to have a better match than that Boneyard match. Next, we get to some cool parts. Taker's, he's at the Performance Center. They have all the bigger guys. I see guys who I sort of recognize. I know Keith Lee, he's there. But he's basically giving them some pointers, and that was kind of cool, actually, seeing Taker with the bigger guys there, giving them help, and he's not as tough on him as he would be in, especially when guys like Big Show, he'd be really tough on. But he seems pretty cool here. Next, we get to a match he had at Randy Orton, and Undertaker's bumping like hell for Randy Orton in this match. That was actually cool. That was in 2002 with Randy, and they had that really good feud in 2005. The John Cena, Undertaker, when they shook hands in Cena's first match. We see just different parts of the Undertaker interacting with young guys. Bray Wyatt, his match with him at WrestleMania 31. We see him training at the Performance Center. And he tells a cool story also about Ric Flair. So after WrestleMania 18, he had a really good match with Ric Flair. People forget about that match because it was overshadowed by Rock and Hogan later that night. But after the match, Flair came up to him and he thanked him for the match. Undertaker didn't really understand why. He's like, it's Ric Flair. But Flair kept saying, thank you, because he had lost all his confidence from WCW. And I thought that was actually a really cool moment because it really came back. And it certainly played out too with The Undertaker, maybe even more so than Flair. So he eventually agrees to the match with AJ. He calls up AJ Styles, he calls up Vince McMahon, and he wanted to rip AJ. So Vince calls AJ and tells him Undertaker's he's going to wrestle WrestleMania, but it's not going to be with you. It's going to be with some kid from Tennessee. AJ's not buying it, and once Taker calls him, they know the match is on. He's messing with them, and it's set up for WrestleMania 36 at Raymond James Stadium, pre-COVID. Next, we get to Super Showdown. And that's when he comes out in Saudi Arabia in the first match when AJ was wrestling. He comes in the gauntlet match. He basically squashes AJ, and that would set up the match at WrestleMania 36. We see him training hard for his match with AJ Styles, and he's 55 years old. It's just crazy. We see him really beating himself up, working out hard. He even gets a bloody nose, and it's crazy how much better shape he's in here than he was 3 years ago. When in the first episode of the documentary, he was in just horrendous shape. He looks in far better shape now. Next, we got to the promo on March 9th, and it's crazy. That wasn't far before the Corona thing happened, but AJ cut that promo Undertaker. I don't even remember it. I remember I did that review for Raw, but he ripped into him. He brought up Michelle McCool. No one ever does that. They never really talk about Undertaker as besides the Deadman. He brought up Mark Calloway. He's a broken old man. Tore this guy apart. It was it was a really good promo by AJ, and it was surprising because we never really get to hear that with Undertaker. He was really protected. I had seen it do it a couple years ago, but it wasn't as much as this. The dilemma the Undertaker has now is he can't beat the Undertaker because AJ talked about Mark. So Undertaker's decision is he's going to combine the Undertaker, the Deadman, with the American Badass, with Mark Calloway. I always thought the American Badass was just Mark, but it's going to combine all three, and that's his plan for it. He then talks about when they did the American Badass. He didn't mention WCW because I remember hearing an interview that the original idea was for him to come into WCW as the biker gimmick we did in WWF in 2000. He makes his big epic return when he was gone for a while. And I think that was actually the last time he missed the WrestleMania before last year's Mania, but he makes his return in the LRMania match with Triple H and The Rock. And that was the American Badass. So it was pretty cool, but eventually people wanted to see the Deadman, and I wish they would have brought the American Badass back at least once before his last match. And the whole reason he did the American Badass was he didn't think the Deadman fit in the Attitude Era. I mean, he was doing the Lord of Darkness and the Ministry, but the American Badass kind of fit more into a realistic tone the Attitude Era was saying. Taker cuts a really good promo when he's basically Mark here. I don't know if he's really the Badass, he's just Mark. And he cuts a great promo on AJ after AJ cut the promo on him on Raw. And I think this is after the lockdown. So then the shit hits the fan. COVID happens. The lockdown happens, mass lockdown, and WrestleMania is thrown up in the air. What's going to happen? Is it going to be canceled? I remember thinking it might be canceled, but it officially gets moved to the WWE Performance Center. They announce it. They show Triple H doing an interview with, I think, CBS or something. It was, what are you going to do? I think they'll come back to Raymond James Stadium in a couple of years. I think WrestleMania 38 will probably take place in that stadium, but if 37 takes place in LA, I don't know if that's going to happen now, but Yeah, changed everything, this coronavirus. So Triple H tells a story. Him and Michael Hayes drove to the site of the Boneyard match, and it's cool when you look at it from the sky view. It's basically a barn. It's a grave that they had to dig, and it's a yard. That's all it is. It's kind of isolated too, and it has neighbors beside it, so if the neighbors turn their lights on, they're kind of screwed. So Triple H had a large part in this filming of this match. And we hear more about the Boneyard match. Undertaker got horrible news before the match. So Taker, he's in the car with Triple H and Michael Hayes, and he gets a call from his niece on his phone, and she tells him that his brother, who would be his niece's father, of course, passed away. He had a heart attack. His name was Tim Calloway. Oh, that was really sad. Tim was 63 years old. I read his actually, the obituary to have for him posted. I think he would have been 8 years older than Mark Taker. So before this match, Taker has to call all his brothers. He has to call his mother about this, who's still alive, and she lost her son to the disaster. So it's tough for Taker too, because the day after he's going to film the Boneyard match with AJ, and it's all about being buried. And he just lost his brother the day before. We see highlights of the Boneyard match, and Undertaker puts his hand through the glass of a hearse, and he pulled a Goldberg. Remember Goldberg? Oh, his was way worse when he broke it on Nitro, but Taker actually had to stop shooting and had to pick glass out of his arm, which was a disaster. They show highlights of the match with Metallica's For Whom the Bell Tolls, which was cool, and this was a hell of a match, that Boneyard match. Of course, Taker wins the Boneyard match, and he drives away in his motorcycle with the Metallica song "Now That We're Dead." We didn't get to hear that, but that was a really great moment. It was like he's riding off into the darkness, not the sunset. You can't ride off into the sunset, but into the darkness. So after the Boneyard match, Taker seems satisfied with it, and I really think this is a perfect way to retire, because I don't think he's capable of having a better match. If he has a match next year at WrestleMania, I don't think he can have anything nowhere near as good as the Boneyard. He wanted that last hurrah to go on a great note. I don't think you can have a possibly better way to go out for Taker than that Boneyard match. That should be it. We go up 2 months later, and we see Undertaker and Michelle McCool fishing. And when they talk about Taker losing his brother Tim, they also reveal that Michelle McCool lost her little nephew, who just graduated high school. He died tragically in a car accident. So they had two horrible deaths. Wow, that's a tragedy. And I feel really bad for them having to go through that in such a short period. That's just horrible. Taker then says Kobe Bryant's death actually had a huge impact on him, as it did a lot of people. And it made him really realize how precious it is to spend time with your family. Taker says if Vince needs something and he needs to bring back Undertaker, he might come back, but he says as of right now he has no desire to go back into the ring. He says, I'm at a point where the cowboy really rides away. Taker then says he's very blessed to have two families, his wife, his children, and his road family, and all the guys in his... He cites some of his closest friends there, mentions numerous names that he was really good friends with. We see a really great George Strait song showing Undertaker backstage photos. A really great send-off, and this would be one of two tributes, and George Strait's great. I really like this tribute for Taker they did here. Now we see highlights of his career, The Undertaker. Next we get numerous wrestlers talking, giving praise to The Undertaker, as he basically bids farewell. I think this is it. We hear Vince McMahon basically pay tribute to Taker's career and to Mark Calloway, and he almost farewells The Undertaker. Finally, after Vince talks, we get Taker again. He says the business has given me everything, and and he's done everything his way, and he's going to leave my way. We see The Undertaker standing outside the shed as the George Strait music plays again, and this is it. Feels like it's the end. I hope it is, because I think this is an amazing way to go out. Thank you, Taker. I think he got the closure for his career that he was looking for. Again, I say thank you, Taker.